What's up? What's up? What's up? What's happening, people? It is your boy Tony B. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Poetry, Politics, and Life, where we bear it all. I am your host, Tony Briscoe. We gonna get right into it. Let's go and welcome back.
Hey, what's happening, beautiful people? What's happening? It's your boy, the Endurer, Tony Briscoe, back at you with another episode of Poetry, Politics, and Life, where we bear it all. Yes, thank you all for listening in. Thank you all for tuning in. My featured poem this week is coming from a brother of mine from the west side of Chicago, goes by the name of Hoodraised. He just dropped a new product. Y'all please go check out the Luminary. Jotted Gems. The title is, Have You Ever Loved the Poet? Have you ever loved the poet, knowing that the man comes before the art? Have you read enough of his hurt to want to look past the dopeness of a line and just say a prayer for his heart? Can you vividly visualize that this victim is trying to make himself a victor through voices and verses because they're his vices? Can you capture the concept that his craftiness in the craft is caused by him catapulting himself out of a crisis? Can you read between the lines and see his cries, or do you see that he's one of the nicest with mic devices? The power in pure perception is priceless. Do you read a stat and press like, or do you dig to see why he's really like this? I'm asking, do you love the man and the myth, the God and the gift? And do you have the heart to uplift an author who usually does the uplifting during trying times? I need you to love the man and the poet. I don't want your body. I need your mind. Have you ever loved a poet? By Hoodraised. Jotted Gems. There is a lot going on in our world today. So much to talk about, so much to decipher, but I would like to talk about the uprising of attacks against the Asian American community. The community in the States, we like to label people here in America, AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander. I believe that's the proper name for the acronym. I could be wrong here. If I am, please forgive me. I should have Googled it before I just said it, but I believe I'm right in my interpretation of that initial. When the murders happened, I put up a post to show support for the loss of human life. And, on social media, when you put something up, people like to challenge you. I was accused of not putting my own race first. I was accused of being a sympathizer to those who don't care about black people or black culture. And, it's social media, right? Everybody's got an opinion about somebody, and I could, at the end of the day, I could really care less, but I still felt the need to address it because of the larger demographic whom I serve. And so for me, 99.99% of my time is dedicated to the African-American community. If I take 0.01 of that time to address an atrocity, to address murder that has happened to Asian people, recently down in Atlanta, Georgia, at a spa where another white supremacist who couldn't control himself, or as the sheriff said, he was just having a bad day, took the lives of 8 individuals. The other 2 individuals, I do not know who they are. I don't think they've been shared in the media, at least when I last checked, right? Emphasis and focus has been on the 6 Asian Americans who were gunned down in cold blood. Allegedly, this demon purchased his gun the same day. I don't know if he did or not. I don't have any details or data to back that up, but it's surely easier to get a gun in Georgia than it is to vote. That's one thing for sure. But I wanted to address humanity. And in being human, we should mourn the loss of life for everyone. Now, what I don't want to do is twist issues here. I'm not talking about black on black crime today. I'm not talking about when black people kill black people, because that's what white supremacists do, and those who follow white supremacist ideology do when you want to confront them about white men who continue to murder and get arrested unharmed for whatever reason, and black men with CDs. Well, you know what I'm saying. You get where I'm going. From a human aspect, we should never champion the loss of life of another race or culture. I think it's deplorable. And my call as a Christian, and I mean Christian beyond this Western hemisphere of the word, it's called me to live peaceably with all men as much as possible. And that's according to the words of the Apostle Paul. What I did do was open up a conversation with colleagues who fall into the AAPI community. And we both exchanged knowledge that neither one of us previously had. She's from China. I let her know that the week that this happened was also the week of Latasha Harlan's murder anniversary. Look up Latasha Harlan. Tupac said that he wanted all us mofos to go to our grave with that name on our brain, because a bottle of juice is not something to die for. A Korean store owner, 1991, I believe, shot a young black lady in the back of the head for a bottle of juice. Latasha had $2 in her hand. This woman only did 400 hours of community service. That's the value of black life in America that was ignored by millions. And so I shared with her the tensions in the black community between the Asian community is very high right now. And it's been high for a long time. I also shared with her if she needed a direct context, she should do two things. Listen to Ice Cube's Black Korea. And then go and watch Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. These are things I shared long before people started talking about Latasha Harlan, long before people started talking about Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, just to give her an understanding of the tension that is there. And then I asked her, I need you to just Google how black women have been treated by Asian establishments. Or maybe I don't have to go that far. I'm going to share something I've never shared before. I don't eat Chinese food. It's a mental block for me. It's a mental block for me because I remember an earlier time in my childhood when I was staying with my biological mother and we went to a Chinese restaurant to eat. And the way that woman spoke to my mom and her terrorist boyfriend at the time was deplorable. She was rude. She was condescending. And she asked if we have any money to be able to afford to eat before they served us. And it just so happened one day I was getting ready to eat some Chinese food and this memory surfaced and I couldn't eat it. To this day, I throw up if I get too close to Chinese food. Now, I'm being very candid and very transparent here. So I don't want my words to be taken out of context or misconstrued. It's a mental block for me. What I couldn't discern is, was I mad at her words, or was I actually mad at the truth that my mother, her terrorist boyfriend, probably had no money because they were hustlers? That's something I've not been able to reconcile. But I wanted to share that to say the tension between our communities has always been there. The problem is that there's been a racist fire on black people for hundreds of years in this country. And then to have the expectation now that the fire is impacting your house, when you're right next door to us in this country of America, that it's impacting your house, that it's a situation that everybody should be paying close attention to. And again, hear my words very carefully. I love my coworkers and I love my colleagues, and I will be there for them all the time. That will never change. What I want us to be able to do is have a human conversation without a racial context to it. Because until we start learning to deal with each other as human beings, and I know that this is like a wish list, right? This is a wish list. This is a perfect world scenario. This is euphoria. Or is it utopia? Yeah, one of them. Anyway, y'all know what I'm saying. Can we look at each other as human beings and with the tragic loss of life, be able to deal with it? As part of this exchange with my friend, she took me to school on the representation of blacks in China. Now, don't forget you have blacks who are in China right now, in Asia for that matter, teaching English, right? I met a brother the other night who's been in Japan for quite some time, almost 10 years teaching English. There's a friend of mine who was teaching in China for about 5 or 6 years before she left there due to COVID. When her dad got sick here in the States. So she didn't leave China because of COVID. She had to come here and take care of her father, who had taken ill. But I say that to say, she schooled me on the impression in Chinese media of black people that they get from white media in America. That unless we're playing sports, all they see is projected images of violence, drug use, and depravity of the African-American community. So they lock that into their psyche at a very young age. This happens in other parts of the world. My cousin came back with his daughters from Italy 2 years ago. And he saw a depiction of slaves on the wall. That's what they teach about us in other parts of this country. And so I want to be clear that a healing has to take place. A cultural understanding has to take place. An impression upon the hearts of humanity has to take place. But our country is going backwards. And Asians and Pacific Islanders and the Latin American culture and the Hispanic demographic and the African American demographic, the African demographic that is here in this country, if we don't learn to pull our resources together and understand the dominance of white supremacy that would have us going at each other's throats day in and day out, then we're going to stay in trouble. This opportunity has allowed us to see how evil operates. It has allowed us to see what happens when racism goes unchecked. It spirals out of control. You don't believe me? Remember after 9/11? there was an uptake in violence against those who were perceived to be from the Middle East, against the Muslim community. This is how racism responds. I'm not talking about people with genuine mental health issues who just don't know no better. I'm talking about how racism responds. And the Muslim community cried out, just like the Asian community is crying out now. But the racism that has been on black people for hundreds of years, that has been perpetrated by some of the same people who come and own stores within our community, who come and own gas stations within our community, who come and own subways within our community. It's a problem when it hits them. No, it's a problem altogether. And we can keep being divisive. We can keep being judgmental. We can even keep saying race first. W.E.B. Du Bois said the talented tenth of each race will preserve its own. So there's no issue with being race first. But if you being race first means you have to oppress other races, then it's not race first. Or, in essence, maybe it is. We've got some healing to do, America. And we've got some work to do. And minority communities, and I use minority with quotes, in this country, if we do not band together, if we do not pull our resources, I know that's going to be something to say, you shouldn't be trying to pull resources with anybody, Tony. We should just be black people, black people, black people. Don't even get me started on being called the color of a crayon. I'm not going to go on that rant right now. Right? Our identity is still shattered. But what I'm saying to us as a people, to us as a nation, to us as a country, that if we hold these truths, that all men are created equal, then we got to start living by them. I dare you to be different.
Dao Yu Feng. Delana Ashley Yuan Gonzalez. Hyung Jong Park. Julie Park. Paul Andre Michels. Xiao Ji Tan. And we have 2 unnamed victims, but we do want to honor them as well.